Today we're going to talk about how you can get started with Google Analytics and the importance of that. You ready? Because it's time.
You're listening to the Church Digital Sidekick Podcast, part of the TCD Podcast Network.
Hey heroes, my name is Tom Pounder and this is the Church Digital Sidekick Podcast. This is a podcast where I bring on ministry leaders and we talk about how you can do ministry more effectively in this very digital and online world. And today I'm bringing back a friend of mine, Jeremy Zog. Jeremy and I have been friends for a number of years. We started off by being friends with website stuff and student ministry stuff, but now we've just become more just friends, friends, not ministry friends, but more friends. And I'm bringing him on the podcast because he is well-versed with websites, and that's what he does currently today. And we're going to talk about Google Analytics and the value of it for your church, your ministry, and just some different tips that he has to share along with Google Analytics. So I'm really excited about this conversation. But before we get into that conversation, I want to remind you to check out theChurch.digital. At theChurch.digital, we have tons of great podcasts, resources, coaching, blog posts, cohorts. There's lots of stuff going on. Online ministry is the place to be. I'm not just saying that because I'm an online guy, but it is the place to be, whether you're doing digital ministry where it's digital and in person, whether it's all just digital or just metaverse ministry, the new ministry track with metaverse ministry. There is lots of different opportunities for you to learn at theChurch.digital. So make sure you check out theChurch.digital, not just this podcast, but all the different podcasts and all the different blog posts and resources that we have there. I would love for you to check that out today. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into the conversation with Jeremy Zog talking about Google Analytics and the value of it for your church. All right, with me right now is my friend Jeremy Zog. Jeremy, how are you?
Glorious, Tommy.
That's good. Okay. I should have said this was all not video related today but now you're gonna make funny faces and
All right. Oh, it's okay. So they can't see our middle mid, our wrinkled
people are gonna
face.
see this now. I mean, so I have a few people from my podcast that always like to try to mess me up, and you're one of those people.
Tom, let's keep it positive. I'll keep it positive and be happy.
Okay. Well, Jeremy, you and I have known each other for quite a number of years, but some people may not know who you are. So to get this started, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what you currently do?
Great. I'm a retired youth minister of 18 years. 18 years, and now, so I worked in all nonprofits, and as you know, nonprofits means you don't get much money to market. So you got to learn all the skills and tools and trades and tricks, which I did.
Yeah.
And I actually really fell in love with marketing, in particular digital marketing. And so I kind of was like, you know what? It was kind of during COVID and all that, went and got certified in front-end web development and some digital marketing certifications, and landed a job with a software company doing their marketing on their external sites. And so that's what I do now, and I love it. So I went from crazy teenagers to now tech,
which is crazy all within itself. But I bet you a whole lot different. Well, it is a whole lot different. But a little known fact about Jeremy and I is that Jeremy actually kind of helped me build my first website, and for the longest time he was kind of my website manager. Whenever I had a crash, I would call him and I'd be like, Jeremy, help me, and you would take time out and help me figure things out. But thankfully you don't do that anymore, and now I have to I still call you and ask you website questions like I was asking you before we press play.
I love now like whenever I see your number, I just say, what do you want? Because but you're like always trying to be so nice, like, hey, how's your life? I was praying.
I do care.
And I'm like, all right, what broke on your site? What do we need to fix?
Yeah.
And then we get all buddy and talk.
Then we get all buddy and talk. So you were a fantastic student minister. You worked for Orange, but what I do love about what you did was exactly what you did. Is you had a passion for website and you got certifications, and now you got an awesome job and you're working remotely and you can work wherever you want. Too bad you never come up to visit me and work remotely, but that's another story. We can talk about that in private later. But Today we're going to talk about Google Analytics. Okay. I think it's one of those things that you always hear about. Every website should have Google Analytics and you should be tracking it. But tell me why, Jeremy, to kick us off on this whole thing. Tell us, what is Google Analytics and why your church website should have it.
Google Analytics, you're right? Like everyone talks about it. It's like, you got to have it, you got to have it. But it's just evolved, it's changed. As you know, technology, websites change. So the biggest tool and great, and it's free, resource is Google Analytics. Why? Because you can measure everything on your website, so you can better manage it more effectively.
Yeah.
So it's all data driven. That's why I love it. It's data. It's not feelings. It's not, it's not. It's like, we have data. Who's visiting our site? Okay, it's a 52-year-old woman who lives in the north part of the city. Like, we can really drill down data, and I love data. So let your data to drive decisions, and let's define the metrics to better manage your site. And that's a big thing, right? Like, the website's the open door to the church.
Yeah, exactly right. And again, we track all sorts of other numbers. Why shouldn't we be tracking who's looking at our website, how long they're staying on our website, what pages are the best and are doing the best, and why they're doing it. So you're going to walk us through just 3 different points here today, about Google Analytics, and about what that can do for your website. So let's go through with point number 1, point number 1.
Yeah, so I know everyone's probably so excited to hear about analytics. Like, there's not, like, people, when you say analytics, people just light up. So great. No, but I try to make it pretty interactive, and drilling down data isn't so fun. So I try to find just really quick, easy tools, simple things that can really give me a dashboard on site statistics. So the first big thing is install it, right? And we're not going to go through that, but if you do, reach out to it. It's super. Just Google it. Essentially, you just need your tracking code. Then you need to put that in your site. If you're using the CMS of WordPress, there's a lot of really easy ways to do that. And so you need, now you're tracking. Now analytics is tracking you, right? And so to make it easier, instead of like having to go and drill down in the Search Console or go into the analytics dashboard, there's this amazing Google Chrome extension called Page Analytics. So that's a free thing. Go ahead, get it, and then it will give you a banner right there on the top of your navigation. So every page that you're on your website, it will give you the dashboard of what common value or what metrics that Google Analytics likes to view. So one of those big pieces, that I really like to talk about is what's kind of the analytics that are in the mind of your user or the session that you're using. So try to think through your audience. Who's the church member, the potential individual that is coming onto your site? So think kind of through the psychology of what do they want, what they need, what they're looking for. So a couple things to look at that. Average session. Session is one user. How much time are they staying on that site? And that will tell you right there. How long? 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 1 second. Like, that's going to tell you a lot right there.
And the longer the better, right? The longer
yeah, so obviously, and that's another cool thing. There's a behavioral flow chart. So we'll look at, all right, so how did this new user come in? And typically for good performing websites, like, they're going to land on the homepage. Now, kind of the growing trend of user experiences, like, landing pages should get you everything you need. So typically, and the reason why is because once they leave that landing page, they're only really drilling down into maybe 1 or 2 more pages in your site. So I would say a really good thing is like 5 to 10 seconds. And if that, you have a very clear CTA of action, then you're doing really, really well there. But another thing kind of to that point is the bounce rate that you want to look at. What's the percentage of these users that are coming to your site, and when are they leaving? How many of those percentages? So, take a given sample set maybe you have 3,000 users in a given month, and 40% are bouncing after like 3 seconds. Like that's probably, you might need to kind of start to look at that. But again, these are getting some metrics
Yeah.
to kind of arm you for some data.
Yeah. I think it's important because again, you've said a few different things like bounce rate, sessions, and whatnot. You could easily just Google just different Google Analytics terms so you can become familiar with the terms. Because again, the idea is you want to keep them on the page, you want to get them is still investing in what is happening on your page. So the longer you can keep them, the better. And if you're not keeping them for very long, then you got to figure out, okay, what adjustments do I need to make sure that people are staying on the page a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like a website is like, it's like an organism. It's live, it's well, and it wants to perform and lead the user to what it needs to do. So it needs kind of an owner to help shape that experience, and they call that user experience. So to me, that's a lot of fun, defining the flow and like kind of the funnel of how you want people to interact and experience your website. So once you kind of design that, and then you can start to then get very strategic in your development on how you want your site.
Now, Jeremy, do you want to have a lot of different pages on your website, or do you want to be very concise on the amount of pages? Like, does your youth ministry need to have like 20 different pages linked to different things, or should it be more concise to that?
Yeah. So I guess again, you this is my opinion. There's a lot of different opinions and probably articles that will disagree with what I say, but from what I've seen and based off of Google Analytics and individuals' use, what is it like after 8 seconds to use somebody don't have somebody's attention, they're gone. So what I say is having a really slick landing page, that one page, very image focused, and then in that navigation, when you click, they're called anchor links. It will just scroll to that page section on that landing page. And then from there, you can have a very specific CTA. So then they can drill down to information they need, such as like a calendar or a form or more status on the events or your library. So I think that's kind of where, so my thing is having a scrolling landing page and then allowing them to choose and click if they want to drill down deeper. But I let them decide that, not the design.
Yeah. Now, again, if you're listening to this and like, man, I don't even have the foggiest idea what is going on. The reality is there are,
Sorry.
I mean, the reality is, sorry, you're up a creek. Sorry, but the reality is, web pages have become very interactive. And again, I like to use WordPress, and WordPress is my blog and what I use. That can be a little bit more tedious. Some people like to say that that's like the Android of smartphones, like because you can really tailor it and change it the way you want to. But there are other websites like Squarespace that make this really, really easy for you to design your own website. And again, to put Google Analytics in there is all you do is sign up for it, then put your number in where you need to put your number in, and you can start tracking immediately. So this is not rocket science. And I know that Jeremy will include his links in the show notes, but he would love to talk to you a little bit more about this as well. So
Yeah, sorry, Tom. If you stop me at any time, like if there's technical terms or something I'm using that are confusing, but you're doing a great job.
you're just so smart. I just got to dumb it down for the rest of us like me, and so this helps me. All right, so that's the first thing that you can do. Okay, so what would be the second thing that you can do?
So this is also in part of that page analytics extension. It's the heat map. I love the heat map. For me, I'm visual. Like I like to see it. So it makes that data kind of become a little bit more alive. So what a heat map really is and does, it gives you kind of like a location and a graphical representation of all the site data. So it allows you to see how your users are engaging with your website. It shows such as like what links they're clicking on, which sections of your pages they're most interested in. So it really starts to visualize the user behavior, and then you can start to use that to your advantage and on how it is. So now with Google Analytics, and that dashboard gives you the numbers, but this also now gives you kind of a very clear visual of where people are clicking and where they're at on the site. And so you can start to kind of map out some of those behaviors.
Yeah, that's really important. And I like this extension. I'm a Safari user, so I'm not really into Chrome, but I do know that there are a few different times that I do actually intentionally use the Chrome browser. It's because they have these great extensions, and Google wants you to use their browser, and they provide these extensions, and they are really, really helpful for you when you're doing website stuff, especially with Google Analytics. So I'm very visual as well. And so the idea of this heat map, I've never used it myself, but the idea of this heat map really makes it really clear what's doing good, what's not doing good. And then you can analyze the data and say, what do we need to make changes on?
Yeah, Tom, and also you bring up like thing like kind of your browser and what you're using. That's also a really big part of like your website, making sure that it looks good on Safari, looks good on Chrome, looks good on Firefox, Edge. And so that's kind of called like
But they
cross.
still have Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, that's so like that replaced Internet Explorer.
I didn't think they still had. I didn't think Microsoft still had that stuff.
Dude, yeah. You don't know, man. Like a lot of PC based companies, a lot of their software is built. And so because Microsoft and they're using Teams and it's all integral into their PC ecosystem, they have to use it. So
Dang, that's awesome. But that's true, and you have to make it mobile friendly too.
100%.
I mean,
Right.
because it isn't a large part of people looking up on websites, looking from their phones or tablet.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, I forget the statistics, especially in the church arena stats, just because when you're driving past a church sign or a church, the first thing you want to do is like boom, you Google it right there. So you're on your phone. So it's a very mobile priority kind of website. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, good. So okay, this is very helpful. And again, I think when you're thinking through these things, you have to think about who your target audience is. Again, it always comes back to who are you trying to reach, and if who you are reaching on your website is different from the target audience, you're going to have to make adjustments. You're going to have to make some changes on one thing or another. Maybe you have to start reaching a different kind of person if the different type of people are coming to your website. But again, before you get into the analytics, know who you're trying to reach, what that person looks like, what they're into, and all that, so that you can really you can judge whether or not your website's meeting the needs of your church. So good. All right. So last one. What's your third point?
Tom shouldn't be using Safari because that's like 10% of all internet users.
Did you just look that up? I mean,
I'm like, whenever I look at anybody's Google Analytics, like it's a very low percentage that are using Safari. So
great.
For us that whenever developing websites, we hate those people that are using Safari because you make our job so much harder. Anyway, sorry.
I tell you, okay, so just a little bit of background here. Jeremy is an Android user. I'm an Apple user. We fight all the time about these things because sometimes we're in group threads together and all that stuff. I mean, we like to pick and prod each other on these things. And so, wait, do you have a MacBook?
I do, yeah, because I think it's it's best for design. Everything looks so great. Anyway, I'm sorry, Tom.
Okay, no, this is
I
good.
told you I wasn't going to bully you on this, but it's just so automatic.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Jeremy.
No, and you can tell, like, obviously I'm a huge Google fan, and it just because that's what, especially in the web world, what everyone's searching through. So anyway, the third piece is just the simple. And actually, I was in a seminar on exactly Google Analytics, and the presenter said one of the easiest things that you can do to really start to boost a lot of organic search and whatever metrics that you're looking at is having a Google business page. Again, as we're saying here, if you scratch Google's back, they're going to scratch your website's back. So they love to capture all that data about your church, and they want it updated pretty frequently because, again, it's a part of their ecosystem. So they're updating their maps, they're updating the hours, the images, the information, but make sure you have that, because whenever somebody searches, that's the number one thing that's going to come right onto the right sidebar. So you really want to have that dialed in an order, and more the updates, the better.
Yep.
And that's going to really please the Google gods.
The Google. Well, it's really important. Again, we've known this for a few years at our church, and we've been really trying to be strategic about uploading pictures and whatnot, and actually even getting those reviews.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Google really wants the reviews.
Yes, good
And
point.
so you can encourage your congregation to give 5-star reviews. Even if they hate your church, they can give 5-star reviews and just give that, because that, again, it bumps your church
So
up
good.
so more. So I think that's
Which,
really important.
and then kind of that point, like if we were on a team and like we were on the web team, like we're like, hey, one of our goals is to get more reviews. So then guess what? I would probably really focus on getting a button, making something really good in our first user experience on our website to get more reviews, and incentivize that. So it's just kind of cool. Like, I love how you said that. Like, boom, we need more reviews. All right, how do we go back? Let's look at the analytics. Let's change our site to get that, and let's test. So that's really, that to me, that's just a lot of fun, isn't it, Tom?
It's glorious, Jeremy. I'd love to see you all giddy about analytics, because again, I will be honest, again, someone's going to be listening to this podcast and be like, it's just too much for me. But the reality is, if I can do it, you can do it.
100%.
And so the analytics are really important, and you really got to examine the data. Because again, if you do a blog post and it really catches fire and people really like it, then you can look at that and say, okay, the data says this type of blog post is really doing well. How can we do more like this? And when you do that, you're going to continue to boost up your numbers and drive people to your website so that they can learn about God and their lives be changed. Again, this all plays in the picture of their spiritual formation. This isn't just about doing a website and getting information. This really starts the process because, Jeremy, we know the stats, right? People are going to check out your website first before they come to your church, right?
And here's the cool thing, like there was one church, so just a couple of years ago, but working with them and like looking at the Google Analytics, but it basically defines the demographic that are visiting your church, to their hobbies, to their interests, and you can get all that access. So you can hand that off to someone that's teaching that weekend, be like, hey, here are the targets. Here's the things that they've looked at. Here's, well, not necessarily, but like there's the hobbies. Here's kind of the persona, the age, what they use, what they like, and that, again, just arming you for how to better meet that felt need.
Yeah. It's really, really important, really good. And again, if you're on WordPress, they have a variety of different plugins that you can put in to help you read the numbers and a good right from your site. Again, like what Jeremy also said, there's a Chrome extension that will help you as well. So it really will, the more you do this and the more you invest in it, the better you're going to get at reading it and then helping your church.
And I want to just say, like, I kind of, for the sake of this conversation, I kind of crafted a lane to how to do this, but there's so many different ways to do this. But the hope, just the motivation is for you to do it and to figure that out. There's so many tools out there and plugins, so that, and there's tons of tutorials. So this is just a way.
Yeah, it's one way, but a good one. Well, Jeremy, as we wrap up, how else would you encourage? Would you give us any final thoughts of encouragement as we're talking to people about church website stuff?
Yeah, I always just keep learning. Just, that's why I love the data. Like, I just pull a monthly report of your site, and just see how you're doing. Set some easy goals. Talk about, people love to hear about like, wow, compliment the people in the church or outside the church that contribute to the website, that are doing that, the data is doing, showing it's doing really well. People love to hear that, right? And just yeah, keep learning, keep complimenting, and have fun.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you said that too, Jeremy, too, because the reality is the person who's doing the Google Analytics doesn't have to be a staff person.
Right.
It can be a volunteer. Like, we think of volunteers on the level of, oh, can they help out with childcare? Can they help out with hospitality? Can they be an usher? Can they be a greeter? But this is a volunteer position where there's probably someone in your church that really geeks out like Jeremy on this kind of stuff and would love to check your Google Analytics and give you the reports that you need. So this could really be a very good volunteer opportunity.
a great point, Tom. I never thought about it like that. And it's not scary. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like people like always get spooked out about it, but it's so easy. And Google, obviously, they know what they're doing. They're trying to make it as user friendly as possible. So it's not, you're not like relinquishing over like confidential data
Yeah.
to, when you link it up. It's just tracking who's coming to your site.
Yeah. It's great. It's very helpful. And Jeremy, thanks for taking some time to talk to me about this. How can someone connect with you if they got questions for you?
Uh, you can go to my portfolio website. It's just jeremyzock.com. Kind of crafts out, who I am. I'm on Instagram. You can connect with me on eBay, JZ to the JC. I made that account, I think in 2000 when I started really getting serious about the Lord. So you can check. I almost have 100% feedback there. So
Oh, you do? I have like a 98% on eBay.
yeah, that's what I do.
Oh gosh, Jeremy is on Twitter too, but he's
Yeah,
never.
I texted you. I was like, I'm gonna get back on that once Elon really overhauls it.
Yeah, there you go. That would be great.
Jeremy Zock.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't back out of that. So that would be fun. So, Jeremy, as always, it's great talking with you and seeing you. So, thanks, man.
Right on. Later. All
right. So, what did you think? What did you think of our conversation with Jeremy? Again, Jeremy, as I said earlier in the interview, he's one of those guys that just purposely tries to mess me up or tries to distract me in some way. But I love having him on. He's a great friend, and he has a lot of knowledge with website stuff. So I would love to hear from you. What encouraged you? What challenged you? What made you think a little bit? Or what questions do you have? Definitely put in the comment section below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at @TAPounder. You can even hit up Jeremy on Twitter, and I'll include all his contacts in the show notes today. All right, heroes. Well, thanks so much for being with me today. As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, go and subscribe to it. It's on iTunes, Spotify. It's on YouTube. You can find it at the theChurch.digital. You can find it at the Digital Bootcamp Facebook group. You can find it all over. So just subscribe to it. It's all in the show notes. We'd love for you to connect in that way. All right, heroes. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Until next time, have a great one.